Hello, welcome to GusMcDoll Strategy and Tactics, and thank you to our subscribers. In this series, we play through the 16 operations of the German Grand Campaign in Close Combat 3, the Russian Front. Please remember to subscribe, comment, and like the video. And if you want to show your support with a donation, the links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. It is day 1 of 7 on Operation 5 of 16. Operational Briefing: German counterstroke at Kharkiv. May 15, 1942. The Bolshevists have been halted before Kharkiv. You now command a Kampfgruppe of the 6th Army's best troops. Your objective is to counterattack and destroy troops of the Soviet 6th Army on your front. Use the hills and valleys to cover your advance. Reconnaissance indicates the Red Army has depleted its reserves. Act quickly and decisively to destroy the enemy before he can bring up reinforcements. Battle Briefing: Counterstroke at Kharkiv. The German attack. The Bolshevist drive on Kharkiv has been stopped. Now, launch the attack. The drive toward the Caucasus oil fields begins here. Your objective is to slice through the enemy defences and begin the advance. Your command is attached to the 6th Army. Your core team should include sufficient armour and infantry firepower to attain your objective. Consider taking on a command vehicle so you can split your forces while maintaining command and control. The terrain is veined with ravines and hills. Some of the ravines offer excellent attack routes. The enemy might deploy tanks in or just east of the farm buildings. Crush the enemy's tanks and you'll gain the upper hand. If you choose to attack along the south flank, watch for tanks and anti-tank guns in the woods. We start the operation with the same forces from the last battle. Von McDowell, Command Sonderkraftfahrzeug 250-10. Platoon Leader, Commander. Heavy Infantry, Sturmgrenadier 1942. Another Heavy Infantry, Sturmgrenadier 1942. Machine Gun Infantry, Maschinengewehr 42. Medium Tank, Panzer 3H. Medium Tank, Panzer 4D, damaged. Heavy Anti-Tank Gun, 8.8 cm Flak 36. Another Heavy Anti-Tank Gun, 8.8 cm Flak 36. Anti-Tank Carrier, Sonderkraftfahrzeug 251-10 with a 3.7 cm pack. Another Anti-Tank Carrier, also with a 3.7 cm Panzer Abwehrkanon. And a medium mortar 8 cm Granatwerfer. First things first, let's refit some of these teams. Von McDowell has a Command Sonderkraftfahrzeug 250-10. This is a smaller, lighter armoured half-track than the other two in the Kampfgruppe. So, let's upgrade this vehicle. Command Vehicle: Command Sonderkraftfahrzeug 251-10. Commanders provide leadership on the battlefield. This vehicle makes commanders more visible, but enables them to move quickly without becoming fatigued. This half-track has a 3.7 cm main gun, machine gun, and thin armour. The team is equipped with a 3.7 cm L46 cannon, coaxial MG34, a Panzerbuchse 39 anti-tank rifle, and 4 Walther P38 pistols for the crew. And don't forget to rename the squad. Next, the Platoon Leader Commander. I want him to stay with the infantry, so no vehicle for now. But perhaps a command team. Command Team: Commando Behörden 1941. Commanders provide leadership. Command staffs add firepower and make commanders more effective. Make sure the commander's radius encompasses the teams you want controlled. Use them to command assaults and anchor defensive positions. The team is equipped with 1 MP40, 2 Mauser rifles, 6 hand grenades, and 1 smoke grenade. Next, let's repair and replace casualties in the damaged Panzer 4D. And let's replace casualties in the 8.8cm Flak 36. This leaves us 29 requisition points remaining and 1 empty slot. But I'm not going to use these yet. In future episodes, I want to put von McDowell in a command panzer, or purchase a medium assault gun for the Kampfgruppe. So, that is Kampfgruppe McDowell. Let's examine the terrain and develop a plan. North is to the top of the map. East of the river, the road from Poltava meanders through low hills and past farm buildings. The terrain is veined with ravines and hills. Some of the ravines offer excellent attack routes. I have marked 5 areas moving west to east. Number 1, the river running north-south, with a crossing point to the south. The Germans occupy both banks and the crossing point. Number 2, the steep hill east of the crossing point. This provides excellent observation and fields of fire over the entire area, and terrain shielding preventing observation from the other side. Number 3, the tractor shed and collective farm 79. These buildings by the side of the road provide an excellent ambush location. The hill to the north also provides good observation of the northern part of the battle space, with fields of fire down to the crossing point and covering most of the road. Number 4, the wooded ravine. A minor obstacle to vehicles, this provides a natural trench line for infantry. The low ground allows concealed movement along the ravine, with the woods providing further concealment for tanks and guns. To the east, the ground rises in a series of ridges, notably Hill 181. Number 5, Hill 198 and the farm barracks. And of course, the crop circle. Again, these buildings along the road would make an ideal ambush location, particularly for an anti-tank gun in one of the buildings, with lines of fire up the road. The ravine and woods immediately behind this area allow for quick reinforcement or covered withdrawal. Key terrain includes the crossing point over the river, the tractor shed, and the farm barracks. But the small hill and wooded ravine is decisive terrain. From here, the Russians can move along concealed approaches to ambush anything moving down the road. Avenues approached from the west include north through Collective Farm 79, along the road, and across the fields and over Hill 198 to the south. The enemy are in defence in complex terrain, so I suspect an ambush. The briefing suggested the enemy might deploy tanks in or just east of the farm buildings. The Russians currently control a tractor shed and high ground to the north. They could place infantry in the tractor shed buildings and tanks and anti-tank guns on the hills to the north and southeast. This would allow the Russians to fix German forces in a narrow engagement area between the crossing point and the collective farm. The Germans would have little room to manoeuvre. If the battle went against them, the Russians could simply withdraw to the safety of the ravine. Alternatively, the Russians could engage German forces in the choke point south of the collective farm. The hill and ravine would be key. The Russians would place an anti-tank gun or machine gun in the farm barracks to block the German advance. Infantry in ambush positions in the ravine would attack the German flank, and a tank and counterattack force in the north could get behind and cut off German forces. But this option only provides a narrow front for the ambushing force, and it does not make best use of the ravine. The briefing also suggested that if you choose to attack along the south flank, watch for tanks and anti-tank guns in the woods. In this option, the Russians would construct an engagement area along the road to the farm barracks. A tank or anti-tank gun, and possibly a machine gun, around the farm barracks would block German movement and pick off vehicles. The Russians would then conduct a linear ambush, attacking from the ravine. This plan would give the Russians long engagement distances for the tank or anti-tank gun. They could spring the ambush at close range and still pick off vehicles further back. And using the length rather than the breadth of the ravine makes better use of terrain. However, the weakness is that the Germans could outflank the ambush by crossing the ravine to the north. Either way, I'm concerned about the presence of Russian forces in the ravine and the possibility of ambush. The first course of action is to quickly secure the tractor shed, then push east to control the ravine, then clear to the south. The infantry platoon will secure the tractor shed under covering fire from the tanks to the north and the half-tracks to the rear. The infantry will then secure the hill to the southeast, while the tanks and half-tracks move east to the ravine and pour fire into it. Finally, the infantry will move into and clear the ravine of Russians. And the 8.8cm guns, machine gun and mortar will provide overwatch from a fire support position to the south. The advantage of this course of action is that it makes good use of armoured firepower to suppress any Russian defenders. The disadvantage is that it exposes the tanks and half-tracks to a lot of risk, particularly if they face Russian tanks. Especially as the anti-tank guns on the high ground do not have good fields of fire east of the tractor shed. An alternative course of action is to attack in the south. The infantry would still seize the tractor shed and the small hill. The fire support group would lay down covering fire into the farm barracks. Then the half-tracks and tanks will advance from cover to take Hill 198 and suppress the farm barracks. This will squeeze the Russians into the ravine between the infantry on the hill and the armour to the south. The armour can then advance to the ravine and use overwhelming firepower to end any ambush. The key advantage of this course of action is that the attack goes in under cover of the anti-tank guns and machine gun. The tanks and half-track are not left hanging. Instead, the German guns can target Russian tanks and the German tanks can target Russian infantry. The risk is that German forces are split between armour at Hill 198 and infantry at the tractor shed. I will manage this risk by conducting each movement sequentially. If the infantry hit resistance, the armour can move up the road to support. German forces played a kind of rock, paper, scissors with the Allies. Guns killed tanks, tanks killed infantry, and infantry killed guns. This approach played to the strengths of each weapon system: the firepower of the guns, the armour of the tanks, and the mobility of the infantry. Of course, tanks could still fight each other, as could infantry, and as could guns, and so on. But rock, paper, scissors was the most efficient path to victory. Now Oberleutnant von McDowell stood up in his half-track, field glasses in hand, and surveyed the scene around him. Summer 1942, and the sun was shining. On the German offensive as much as on the troops. The preemptive Russian attack had been defeated in previous days with the destruction of many of their tanks. Now on the advance, the Kampf group has crossed a small river and must clear the road on the other side. The terrain is veined with ravines and hills. Von McDowell suspects an ambush, so he will proceed cautiously. I have now moved my troops into position and will execute the plan in real time. Let me know in the comments below what you think of the various courses of action and if you've identified a viable alternative. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more great strategy and tactics content. And so we begin. The anti-tank guns and machine gun are in the support by fire position on top of the hill, with the mortar off to their right rear. To the southwest, the tanks and half-tracks remain concealed and await the order to proceed along the road to Poltava. To the southeast is Hill 198 with its mysterious crop circle, and the farm barracks beyond that. To the northeast is Hill 181 and the north-south ravine. To the northwest is the tractor shed and collective farm 79. The infantry are poised to strike. Finally, they get the order. Obergefreiter Altrichter's squad is ordered to take the tractor shed. Obergefreiter Kleese's squad prepares to give covering fire. Behlendorf covers with his MP40. Frohl is first through the door. His eyes adjust as he scans the interior of the shed, peering intently into the shadows. He moves in slowly, the rest of the squad following. No Russians in the shed.
Gebiet gesichert.
The squad takes cover, keeping watch over the adjoining buildings. Time for the attack in the south. Schickner's half-track leads off. The fire support group prepares to lay down a barrage. There is no sign of Russians in the ravine. Erlmeyer's 8.8cm starts to fire, joined by Baumann's 8.8cm. And Waldmann's MG42. The mortar commences a smoke barrage to screen the armour. Schellenberg now moves up.
Stellungswechsel ausgeführt.
Schickner plots his movement to Hill 198. The mortar checks fire. And switches to high explosive. Von McDowell now moves up. Still no sign of the Russians. The mortar switches to harassing fire in the ravine. This should disrupt any Russian attack. Alfrich's squad now moves to take the hill. Kleese's squad moves up to support, as does Lieutenant Schadel. The half-tracks are on the move. Gottberg, in the Panzer IV-D, starts to move. And Zeltmann in the Panzer III-H.
Truppe umgruppiert.
Schickner is in position on the reverse slope of Hill 198. The infantry advance cautiously. Oberleutnant von McDowell clears the creek line and plots his way forward. Schickner moves to take Hill 198.
Stellung eingenommen.
Schellenberg is in position covering the mouth of the ravine. Von McDowell brings up the centre. The tanks cross the creek. The fire support group restarts its covering fire.
Gebiet gesichert.
Schickner takes the hill.
Находимся под обстрелом.
Contact. Schellenberg spots Russian infantry in the woods near the ravine. He opens fire.
Stellung eingenommen. Ausgeführt.
No target for the MG42. There they are. The Panzers move up. Ulrich's squad is moving up the hill under mortar fire. The German mortar opens a fire mission.
Находимся под огнем!
To the south, the smoke dissipates to reveal a German firing line of 3 half-tracks and 2 tanks.
Кровь!
The tanks push forward. Frohl is knocked unconscious by mortar fire. Kleese's section moves up, as does the lieutenant. More casualties from the Russian mortar fire. Ulrich's squad goes to ground. Behlendorf is dead.
Stellungswechsel ausgeführt.
Barman's 8.8cm gun has the shot and loads HE.
Truppe umgruppiert.
Achtung, Panzer! A T-34 emerges from the ravine to the south. Gottberg has the shot. And Baumann. And Schellenberg. And von McDowell. And Schickner. Hit! The T-34 is damaged.
Спасите меня!
Hit and destroyed. The power of the firing line.
Противник предложил прекращение огня.
The tanks move forward. Incoming. The half-tracks move forward also.
Ziel neutralisiert.
Russian infantry in the tree line have suffered casualties. German armour rolls forward. Minor victory. The battle ended because the Russians fled the battlefield. The Germans gained control of the area and will advance. German losses were 1 killed, Soldat Behlendorf. Russian losses were 8 killed, 3 wounded and 1 tank destroyed. Let's examine the Kampfgruppe. no new medals. Bryn and Haas in Zeltmann's Panzer IIIH are each credited with half the T-34 kill. Baumann's gun and Schellenberg's half-track accounted for the Russian infantry losses, along with Furstenberg's mortar, of course. Schützenbellendorf is the only casualty from the Kampfgruppe, killed by fragments from a Russian mortar shell. Otherwise, morale and experience continue to climb across the Kampfgruppe. So, what did we learn? The big lesson from this battle was the role of the German fire line, or Stoßlinie. Once the smoke cleared, the Russians faced the concentrated fire of 2 German tanks and 3 half-tracks moving forward in the assault. One-on-one, the T-34 is the better tank, but it could not win against 5 enemies, simultaneously pounding it with fire, round after round, until it was destroyed. The second lesson was the value of harassing fire in disrupting the enemy. The mortar fire into the creek line would have forced the Russian infantry to go to ground rather than advance. When they were spotted on the edge of the tree line, they came under fire from a half-track, anti-tank gun and mortar. With Altrichter's squad on the high ground, they had nowhere to go. Morale collapsed, and the Russians fled the battlefield. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and donate, and stay tuned for the next episode.